the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV-Week, episode 61, recorded Friday, October 5th, 2012. The real AV-Week.
Ready.
AV-Week.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AV-Week. It's time for AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host. Thank you so very much for joining us. With us this week is George Tucker. He is the engineering coordinator for World Stage. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you?
Good. With us also is Betsy Jaffe from InfoComm International. How are you, ma'am?
Great. Hi, everyone.
And also, last but not least, Mr. Steve Greenblatt. He is the chief dishwasher and the head honcho at Control Concepts. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. This week, we're going to talk about a ton of stuff. Everything from Utz Baldwin. He used to head up CEDIA, and now he's doing something very interesting with home control and home automation. The Logitech Harmony Touch is out, and I'm not quite sure what that means for AMX and Crestron, but we will talk about it. The FCC is the devil, and I'll tell you why. OLED market is going to hit $3.2 billion. Somebody really smart says, and we're going to see if it's going to take as long as they say it is. And last but not least, Neil Young has a new music player. Yeah, then I'll leave it at that. But first, InfoComm has a celebration every single year. And actually, that's where we got the name of this very program. It's called AV Week, and it happens this year. It's starting on the week of October 15th, and that is why Miss Betsy Jaffe is here. So kind of tell us, Betsy, a little bit what AV Week is and how various people are celebrating it.
Sure. Thank you. Basically, AV Week started 6 years ago. It was the brainchild of one of our members, Ernie Bailey, who is a technology manager over at the University of Arkansas Medical Services. And he said, we really need a week to celebrate the whole industry. And from there, the event has grown and grown and grown. This year, InfoComm itself is hosting a couple of events. And then, of course, our members all around the world will be hosting their own individual events. It's a great reason to step out of what you do on a day-to-day basis and conduct some outreach, either with students or your general community. And we're really excited with the way it's shaping up this year. This year, InfoComm is hosting a special event called The Power of AV for Education, and that's going to be held on October 16th in San Diego, California. And this event is designed especially for AV professionals working in education, training, and learning environments. We're going to look at the future trends in learning and technology's role. And we're looking at how the technology can actually be used to improve the learning environment, facilitate classroom and training room activities, and help institutions and organizations manage shrinking funding, which is an unfortunate reality that we live in today. So that's one event that we're holding ourselves. And then we're also hosting a really fun event called the AV-lympics.
Yes.
Now, this is an event that we're hosting in our backyard in Fairfax, Virginia, over at George Mason University, but we're hoping others in other locales around the world will also be hosting their own. But basically, this is a full-day event. We're going to have 40 area high school students who are active in TV production, receiving education on career paths in the industry, and then they'll train and compete in various AV theme activities. Some of our local members will form teams and compete in our first ever AV-lympics. And whoever wins can win a free trip to InfoComm 13 in Orlando and compete again against teams around the world.
See, that right there is cool. If you're not on Twitter, that this is where I found out about the AV-lympics because there's a hashtag going around. And various manufacturers and integrators actually are starting to talk about this and laying a little smackdown. I'll there is a little bit of that, but this sounds
there
really
is
cool.
a little trash talk going on,
Yeah.
and I will say that the live events community is really surprised that the integration community isn't willing to step up to the plate and field teams. They're thinking that maybe that they don't have the skills. So I think maybe the integration community might want to answer their call. So.
Well, at least AVISPL or Ford or somebody should step up. I mean, geez.
Well, I don't want to call out any individual companies, but I will encourage all to participate. Unfortunately, I won't be at either of these events. I'll be at another event that InfoComm is hosting during AV Week, which is our IFMIA show in the Middle East in Dubai. And so we are expecting a great event over there as well. And we'll definitely be doing outreach with folks from the Middle East and Europe who will be attending that show in conjunction with GITEX, one of the world's biggest IT shows and building technology shows. So this is our second year doing that, and the second year it's coincided with AV Week, which has been a happy coincidence. In addition, we've got members all over hosting events. RP Visuals in Anaheim is going to teach a class of film and TV students as well as IT students at Santa Ana College. Columbus State University College in Ohio is going to host a display and presentation. Westminster College in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania has been a longtime supporter of AV Week, and for the fourth consecutive year, they're going to do a whole week's worth of events for students to participate in. Listen Technologies has been a great supporter of AV Week from the beginning, and this year they have a whole host of events going on. Corey Schaefer is going to present to teens interested in film production and related arts and media at East Hollywood High School in Salt Lake City. The governor of Utah and the mayor of Salt Lake City and the city of Buffdale will all be issuing proclamations making AV Week official in their jurisdictions. Scott Woolley with the LDS Church is going to speak about hearing loss prevention to sixth grade science students in the Granite School District. And there's also going to be a technology tour of the LDS Conference Center, which is an amazing facility if you haven't been there. So those are some of the events. I know Kramer Electronics is doing really getting into the spirit of AV Week by hosting 2 training and education sessions at their New Jersey office. And this is a great way to celebrate AV Week because training is so essential to where the industry is right now. And there's such a need for it. So hosting a session and doing it during AV Week is a really great way to do that. And I know CMA Digital in Hollywood, Florida is going to be doing an open house. I'm showcasing their office and all their digital signage and software. And this is just they're opening their offices up to the community, which is great. And then finally, another longtime supporter of AV Week, Projector Lamp Services in Bohemia, New York, is offering a Relamp It recycling raffle. And they've been doing this for the last several years. And it's really a great opportunity to go green and encourage folks to recycle used projector lamps. And all of those folks will have a chance to win a new projector.
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
These are just some of the events being held that we know of. We know there are many others that we don't, a lot of employee luncheons. And I know some companies like to recognize their CTS professionals during AV Week with some ceremonies, et cetera. But we're really looking forward to all of this.
Well, and one of the things you mentioned was the proclamations, which I think is kind of cool too, where if you have the connections in your community, and it doesn't have to be the governor. The governor's freaking cool. But, our little town of 35,000, you can pretty much call them, get a hold of the mayor and have them do something like that. That is also something cool. So get out there and please support your AV Week, whether it's the AV-lympics or anything else like that. It's very cool.
Thank you. And the other thing we're really asking people to do is if you are hosting an event, please let us know. Take photos, send them on to us. We'll tweet them out. We'll share them. And we'll writing up case studies of some of the most successful events. So please help spread the love during AV Week.
Yes, absolutely. All right. What?
I know. Am I the only one that thought about the AV Olympics and was seeing the Battle of the Network stars in their head?
Oh, wow.
That would be cool.
That would be really cool.
See, now that's what we need to do. Betsy, we need to get a track, rent it in, make it an event. It's an InfoComm thing.
Yeah.
Actually, we did talk if there are enough participating teams this year. We did talk about having the InfoComm booth at our trade show actually be a stadium to do a competition.
That is awesome.
So I was
It is
thinking
the
kind of
battle.
like Iron Chef almost. So we'll see how that turns out. If not this year, maybe future years.
Yeah, that's, but the problem is that you have to be a certain age to remember the Battle of Network Stars. So,
Hey, there's Google. You can look it up and be entertained.
I'm going to move on. Mr. Utz Baldwin, who used to head up CEDIA, which is not InfoComm in any way, shape, or form. No comment there. Just one is Resi, one is Pro. Let's go one from there. He's got a new venture, and it's interesting to me in various ways. Let's just it's ad-supported home automation, and that right there, that sentence, I never thought that I would be saying it. The article is a link to CE Pro, and the headline says it all. Former CEO launches ad-supported home automation platform. George, did you ever think that there would be a ad-supported that kind of home automation where here's a free a free home automation kit, and by the way, you might see ads every once in a while?
Am I surprised? No, I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised that it wasn't Google who actually did this. I mean, you've got Android devices, you've got stuff out there. They're in the heart. I would think that this would be a natural transition for them. I mean, who knows? Maybe Google will see this and go, "Hey, we want to be inside that,"
and then buy it. Yeah.
And we'll put the ice cream operating system in there or whatever. I'm not sure what I think of it yet. It's interesting. It's cheap. And it would be intriguing. And there's a certain comfort level. Like, we're on social media. We're already being tracked in that way. How intimate does it get? And that's the curiosity for me. To get myself a home automation system, you're going to know a lot of intimate details.
Yeah.
Like when I go to bed and what I'm watching on TV, and I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but maybe this is one of those cases where it's just for me that's where the line is too much.
Okay, that's valid. Betsy, you've known Utz. Is this something that you could see him doing?
Well, honestly, I was surprised but very pleased when I first heard about it, and I really do wish him all the luck in the world. All of us at InfoComm were kind of cheering yesterday when we found that he won the People's Choice Award from Demo, and had won this $1 million in advertising prize from IDG. We think that's incredible, and I think it only speaks to his expertise as an entrepreneur, and we wish him the best of luck.
Mr. Steve, this is your wheelhouse, dude. This is where you live, which is control. I'm not going to ask if you see Utz Baldwin as a competitor, but let's just say, do you see this as kind of honing in on your bread and butter?
Well, I think it's very unique and entrepreneurial, as we discussed. I'd have to know a little bit more about it to really understand the depth of it, and whenever you're talking about something that's low cost, your expectations are not as high, at least in my opinion. You get what you pay for type of thing.
Okay.
So I guess I'd need to know a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of it. I guess that's the engineer in me.
That's the engineer. Okay, let me break that down. Miss Betsy Jaffe has multiple meetings to go to, and she has to leave us. So thank you so much for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing about everybody's AV Week events.
Yay! AV-lympics.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Something else that came down the pike this week. I don't know, I guess, what was it, been a month or so ago? High bought Leviton, or Leviton bought High. And it's still confusing to me because it's called High by Leviton, and I just think I wish that they would just combine them, whatever. And they've got home control.
Leva High?
Huh?
Leva High?
Leva High. There you go.
Hyanton?
Yeah. It feels like I don't know. Okay, so we've got a bunch of control stories here. One obviously is Utz. The next one is this High by Leviton. Steve, is this? I mean, are these guys? They're not going after Crestron and AMX. They're going after Savant, right?
Well, just coming back from CEDIA, about a month ago, there are just so much control out there. It really, every product seems to have an interface, and everything is centered around control. And in the commercial market, we have our main players, but in the residential market, it's just so wide open. And so I'm not surprised to see something like this and probably. There are many other copycats like that out there, and from my perspective, the ones that are going to survive are the ones that are going to be able to have a reliable product, but also have the support, and that's where the big guys in the commercial industry excel.
George, you mentioned that you were surprised that Google didn't do the Utz Ballin thing, but like Steve said, everybody has a control, everybody has an interface. Is this something where it's going to be the this is the next generation of flat panel hangers where control is going to become so commoditized that anybody and everybody is going to be doing it, and so not that there won't be a place for people like Steve that do the high end versions, but everybody's going to have control. Apple will have control. Microsoft will have it. They'll screw it up, but they'll have it. Is that where we're headed to with high?
You're so jaded. You
I
just
am
so jaded. In
you did
internet
it.
mind. What? Yeah, I know, right? It's all my fault. I'll take the blame. Just tell my first wife; she'll agree. Yes, there's going to be a place for the high end stuff, but this is where it's going to come down to, obviously, because the mass market will demand it. So the mass market stuff will be. And I find it interesting because I'm really seeing everybody that has a viable, controllable product realizing that they either have to have a really tight relationship with a control manufacturer, or they're going to have to do their own, because eventually that other market, that other manufacturer is going to say, oh, we do shades. Oh, we do lighting. Oh, there's no guarantee that if you don't defend against it, they're not going to take it. And I think a lot of that mass market draw now is that, because they'll say, hey, you're buying a Leviton product. You should be, hey, we have a product right for it. Just slides right in. There you go. We'll help you do it. I mean, some of it will probably be through dealerships as well, but you are saying, hey, it's just like the security companies. For years, alarm companies get really, really miffed because one of their profit centers, keypads, it was being taken away from them by the touch panels and the other stuff that the control companies were selling. Right, Steve?
Yeah, I hear you there.
And so some of the alarm companies are selling control and security. They're over the internet cameras. They're selling systems that can control your lights for you. It's a natural progression because they have to. Okay, so you mentioned dealers. Another story that we have that we'll go ahead and roll right into is the fact that, just kind of without any fanfare, the new Logitech Harmony Touch remote has popped up. It's in Best Buy right now. It's on Engadget is the story. And are we surprised at this then, that that Logitech is getting into the touch control, touch remote control? I mean, the Harmony has been around for a long time. It's simple. It's inexpensive. It's it's all of these things that. Again, it's a lesser version of maybe an AMX handheld or Crestron handheld control. Are we surprised that it's gone to the touch interface now, George?
I think it had to. I mean, because if right now, I think, and we've discussed this before, that the standard is set by the mobile devices and everything is touchscreen based. So I can't see something surviving that doesn't have a touch component, and there is something to be said for hard buttons, but when you're talking about a remote, the more buttons you put on, the more hard buttons you put on it, the more confusing it gets. So at least a touch screen, you can control some navigation, and you have a little bit more flexibility and customization.
I tend to disagree, and I maybe I'm not in that market selling these things to people with those, but that frictionless screen does not work for me while looking. I mean, this is my weighted knob thing again, Tim. But there's that tactile feel that I know. No matter how many buttons are on it, after a little while, I know exactly where those buttons are, and I can do what I want. I'm not sure what a touchscreen and a remote brings, except glam. And I can be convinced, but I really have never seen what in a handheld remote. What does that touchscreen really provide me except pizzazz?
Well, the one thing it gives you, and this comes from somebody who dabbles in programming control systems, is it gives you more options. And I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but if you have a bunch of hard buttons, there's only so many things that I can do with that. You give me a blank screen and unlimited pages or unlimited subpages, I can do pretty much whatever the heck I want to do, right?
I suppose. Well, let me pose it this way then, and I'll to both of you, but I guess especially to Steve. Why not push forward with on-screen stuff instead? Is that not a better benefit, or is it just because it's obscuring the image while I'm doing something? If I'm watching football, I guess I don't want to dance around, but that seems to be the more intuitive. Maybe some kind of remote. I don't know how they do those, light sensing or whatever, but that just seems to me be the way to go. Where I say, okay, bring it up on screen, boom. Even my favorites. I'm thinking of what do I need a screen for? I need it for my favorites, or I need it to save a chord, maybe.
So, but the first question is how are you always looking at something where you have that on-screen navigation? If you're controlling your lights, do you want to go to on-screen navigation type of thing? So, and also depending on what you're watching, it would have to be some sort of technology that would overlay on the image that you're looking at. I believe that Control 4 it uses something like that, and unfortunately, I don't have enough familiarity with it. But that was my understanding that there was some sort of an on-screen navigation with their components.
Well, even we had Randy Klein from Crosstrug on, good Lord, 6-9 months ago, and he made a good point about iOS control, let's say, because he was specifically talking about using his iPad. He said, I'm reading the news or I'm watching something on my iPad. I don't want to get out of that and go into my app to turn off the lights or make sure that this is locked or make sure that this is on or off. There is, I think at least, a place for dedicated control and stuff that's not necessarily going to obscure, like you said, George, what I'm watching on TV. Now, once this, mythical Apple TV comes out, whenever that is, most of the pundits have said that it's going to be voice. If it's voice, then there's going to have to be some sort of visual recognition that, hey, I just heard you and I'm doing what you asked type thing. And then that's going to have some sort of obscuring the screen, is it not? Or is it going to be like on the side or something?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I suppose. I mean, I guess you could do it like a toolbar or whatever they call it in Mac.
A good example of what we're talking about right now is the guide on for cable TV or satellite TV and how I don't know I find that to be
it's
a staple but that's how I decide what I'm watching though.
Yes,
I mean, I don't go and channel surf anymore. I just go to the guide and then you get to see your image in an insert and you navigate to what you want. So I guess the practicality is there. I mean, the user interface may not be great, but the practicality is there.
Now, these really sophisticated controls surfaces or handheld stuff in a box store always mystify me. Now, Logitech does do a more advanced version or advanced branding, do they not? That goes through dealers, or are they completely box store? I can't remember.
I want to say they're completely box store, but I could be. I mean, they may have a higher end version of that.
You can buy Logitech in a store like Best Buy, but you also can get it. It can be resold by an integrator, and I guess Pronto was a good example of that way back when. I'm pretty sure that if you want a lower end universal remote, I would imagine that it can be sold and programmed by an integrator.
Yeah, because it never seems to me like it's a hard thing to make a profit off because the number of units you need to sell with that bit of sophistication, and granted everything's getting cheaper and that becomes, but it just seems to me something that it almost seems like a lost leader in a way.
Yeah, but for what? I mean, it's
yeah,
not
well,
like,
that's what I was asking. I don't know exactly what else they're selling.
I mean, I could see AMX or Crestron giving a loss leader to get into the door with with their versions of high definition signals over twisted pair, but this is not this is not them.
But I guess if you're going to buy a system, and you need some way of making it easier to use, so at least something like this can satisfy that need. I mean, you can't add the budget of a Crestron system or a higher end sophisticated control, but this will at least get you to the point where somebody's happy with the system that they're getting.
Well, not for nothing, but let's be honest. Like George said, the technology is getting cheaper. Who knows that Logitech may be using the same programming that they were using 4 or 5 years ago. They purchase the touchscreen interface, and that's it. It just makes it look sexier.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I would think that would be the case.
Yeah. You are listening to AV Week. Thank you so much for doing so. With us is George Tucker from World Stage and Steve Greenblatt from Control Concepts. For a number of us, and I say us because I bought one of these things, the Nest 2.0 came out this week. And this is going to sound so geeky and stuff, and I apologize, but that's kind of what this podcast is about. So what Nest is, if you're not familiar, it is a really fancy thermostat. Let's be honest, that's what it is. But it's an integrated thermostat that has IP control, and it does a lot of really cool things. And this 2.0 came out this week. And it does, first of all, it connects with more home heating systems than it ever did before. If you buy a new one right now, it's actually thinner. Mine is a little more hockey puckish looking. But it does a lot of cool things. It has filtering inputs. It has all kinds of other stuff. The reason I even mention it is not to say, hey, it's really cool, but to talk to you guys a little bit more about control. This is one of those products that I'm still shocked that people like AMX and Extron and Crestron aren't able to talk to, at least not easily. So with all of these little silos going on, Steve, are we looking at some sort of somebody down the road needs to do some sort of standard when it comes to talking to people in control world? Because, I mean, you've got HVAC systems, which is in essence what this is, and you've got lighting systems, and you've got, TV systems, and you got this and that and the other. Can't we all kind of talk together and get along?
So I guess the question is, can they talk to it, or do they want to talk to it? Because what we're seeing a lot now is that the control market or the control manufacturers are expanding their reach, and there may be some competition there, and so maybe something. I don't know. I have to do a little bit more investigation as to what the limitations are for control, but a lot of times it's just a matter of cracking the code and determining if the control manufacturer and the product manufacturer want to talk to each other.
Gotcha. So
it's getting that information.
That's valid. George, is this one of those things where we're going to have to, like Steve said, crack the code and just say, if you want to, here's how it works?
I suppose that's eventually how it's going to be, because that's usually how it always gets sort of broached. Like, no. Oh, you cracked it. We can't. Okay, fine. It's usually what happens. But I think this goes back to what we were saying earlier with some of the other systems, is that there is a sort of fear of, you're going to know how our inner workings work. You're going to give you a demo. Your engineering department's going to take it apart, and 6 months to a year later, you're going to have your version. I mean, a lot of those companies already have wireless thermostats that they utilize and put in place. I mean, Nest just had this sort of mass user Gizmodo and gadget. It looks like an Apple i something. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And everybody sort of danced on it and got really excited. But it's a fairly straightforward wireless thermostat that lets you do, what all of the 1999 ones at Home Depot do. I guess Best Buy sells some of those, right? I mean, it just looks nice and can talk with a few more sophisticated systems. The problem with it, of course, is that it still doesn't do say a 2-stage or 3-stage heating system, something that goes to forced air, to oil, to whatever. Yeah. And it's AC or it's heat. It's sort of my house. I got one zone.
Well, yeah.
2 floors, one zone. But it's had its issues. I mean, you can make a very fancy looking thermostat, but that cycle time between when you want it to be 72 degrees and when the system kicks it on and when it kicks it off are very sophisticated things that take a lot of time to work out the kinks on. Even if you think you know the algorithm, it does take a lot of consideration to get in. And Nest has had these problems. They have it kick off wrong, or it gets interfered with, or it was 72 degrees, but it said it held it on for the entire evening, even when it didn't need to. Stuff like that. And this is all growing pain stuff. I still think they have a huge potential. I like the camouflage thing, by the way. It's shiny, so it matches your wall by reflecting it. Okay. But the other thing that a lot of people pointed out, I think, that is really the killer position for this is that sub 100, this thing will sell like crazy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, right now, it's sort of a toy. It's something, people with a little extra cash go, ooh, I can do this, and it's okay. But sub 100, bang, you're going to sell a lot of these boxes.
Yeah, that's probably valid. That's probably valid. All right, so let's talk about sub things like sub $100, sub $1,000 things. Vizio, which is not exactly a Pioneer or a Panasonic, but let's be honest, they sell a lot of them. They have a new $1,000 display that's 60 inches. And I know we've talked a lot about the commoditization of flat panels, especially George and others that are in that market or were in that market. But is this the point where we're getting, a 60-inch display with a Cracker Jack box, basically, George?
It sounds like it could be. And they did make an effort to promote the smart TV and the apps thing, although everyone noted that there weren't that many. But the ones that they showed, Netflix, Redbox, all this other stuff, were the essential ones you want, right? I mean, you get to a point where you say, okay, I want a TV and it comes with certain elements in it. Do I need 1,000 apps?
No.
How many are you really going to use? You're going to use, you're not going to make the TV do eye candy stuff during a party. Well, maybe you are, but how many of us are really going to do that, right? Now, there's an app. I have to write that. Make the smart TV do eye candy during a party with the music. I like this. I'm patenting it right now. Copyrighted.
Yeah,
Nobody take.
Go trademark it.
Exactly. But the sub 1,000 or just over $1,000, I think it was, is a pretty good price for what is it? A 1080p, decent 60-inch HD TV. I'd like to be able to see it and see how well the glass holds up to being off axis and how well the glass looks after, being in a room for a couple of months. But other than that, I think that's an interesting way to go.
Steve, this thing not only, the remote control is also it is because it's got a QWERTY keypad, right? So no longer am I, arrowing up and arrowing down to get, to spell my horrible last name, So I can actually type it out on an actual keypad. And George is right. It doesn't have a ton of apps. But it has the ones that a majority of Americans are going to use: Netflix, Amazon Instant Video, Vudu, Hulu, and YouTube. I mean, that's it for $1,000. I mean, is this where, is this like the gold standard now, or is that kind of like the $1,000 mark? Is that where display manufacturers are aiming for?
Well, it seems to be if in the article it talks about if you go up to the 70-inch, it doubles the price. So I guess the 60 seems to be either where the components could be either mass produced, or maybe the screens are available very easily at that price. There must be some sort of a technical or manufacturing divide once you go above 60. And because that's quite an increase, yeah. But Vizio's always been known, haven't they, to make affordable products that may not be the best, but are good for the average person. And I mean, I have Vizio at home, and I'm very happy with it. And maybe it doesn't get the highest ratings on CNET, but it certainly is something that is affordable and respectable.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah. All right, and that one actually is an LED, which leads us into our next story. There's a group out there that says the flexible OLED market is going to hit $3.2 billion with a B dollars by 2017, and they're including everything from smart phone displays to obviously computers, and hopefully actual TVs and displays. That would be lovely. But my question is Steve, we'll start with you on this one. Do you think it's going to take till 2017 though? That's my initial reaction to this was, yeah, I'll give you $3.2 billion. Absolutely. I don't think it's going to take till 2017. Do you?
You're probably right. I mean, these things we've been talked about for quite some time, and I mean, I think that we're ready for the next best thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that that's something that's going to help to stimulate the display market too.
George, he said this is the next best thing, which I'm very thankful for because he didn't say the word 3D or even 4K. But and I get it. Thank you. I know it's not the same thing. It's the technology. It's not the 3D. Anyway. But do you think this is going to take till 2017 with everything that they're talking about, everything from the smartphones to the tablets to everything else?
I think there's a transition period of people with existing devices that may not fade out or transition out of age or of use. So I think 2017 sounds fairly reasonable, but as I've said a couple of times already at our year-end show, this is the year of the OLED. I declare it. It's going to happen, and it looks like more and more we're hearing all about it. And it is the new thing that I think everybody feels is it's a good, viable product that you can sell to the client and to customers with a real payback to them. That it's clearer, it's smaller, it's thinner. You can do stuff. You can fold it. And as the Sony exec said a couple of weeks ago in an article, 3D really isn't what everybody's looking for. We just sort of had to have a catchphrase, so everybody jumped on it. It's a great article.
It's a great article, and it was very refreshing to hear somebody say that.
Yeah, somebody although that may just be another Sony misstep.
Well.
Who knows? Hey, we were honest. Nuts, that didn't work either. But there's all kinds of things that this OLED can do. We've talked about it from digital signage and touchscreens that go through windows and things like that, to like wearable art. I don't know if anyone remembers in New York the Unique and Ferrucci stores that you could buy art by artist and wearable art. But man, this stuff is coming darn close to being able to be a living, breathing art piece that you wear and walk around with.
Well, there was a couple years ago. It was all the rage to have LED or OLED. T-shirts where you had these little, it wasn't an actual display, but you had these little, threads running through your clothes, and they made designs and they made sayings and stuff like that, and they were just, powered by a small little battery. You could do that on a T-shirt or a pair of pants and have, basically Times Square on your back if you wanted.
Yeah, well, this will be different though. This is real imagery. I mean, the things you can do, like with video artists that do stuff like the projection mapping type things that people do on all these buildings. You can do that with OLED. I know this is sort of straying from it, but that's kind of a cool concept thing that I think one of those things will push. Once you get artists like, say, Laurie Anderson doing stuff with that with OLED, you'll see a slight leaning of the consumer market towards it just because it's so evocative.
Yeah.
So this is digital signage to the next level, huh?
All of the sort of dystopian futurist graphic novels really sort of talk about this. The Fifth Element type graphic novels before the movie all show this kind of thing coming. We know it's happening. We already have the ads that already call out at us as we walk by. It's a matter of time before they do I don't forget what the movie is that they call out his name as he's running past them to go solve a murder. But
Minority Report.
Hey, John Thomas or whatever his name is. But it just is. But the potential's there for a house. You can have a screen that wraps around a corner in a room. You can have it do these odd things that will fit within the decor and design of a room that you can't do currently because we have a rectangle. It doesn't have to be a rectangle.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. No, very true. All right, let's go down the road of Apple for just a second because I'm just tired of hearing from them. But this one is actually kind of cool and unique. They were awarded a patent today, patent number 8 million, so on and so forth, that describes the way in which a wireless adapter could interface between a device and an accessory. And according to this article from CNET, the adapter would be able to handle different wireless protocols such as Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. George, are we getting to the point where the HDMI, and please say yes, the HDMI is obsolete or we're headed in that direction?
One would hope so, although that I think we'd also have to talk about what kind of compression scheme we're going to need to transport that media and data over. and what distances. I mean, we know we can already do HD over that kind of stuff, but it's how compressed you have to make it and how far you can throw it, right?
Yeah.
I think the bigger thing that people are looking at this article for is, well, one, because Apple's thinking way ahead in the ecosystem. They want to own the ecosystem as much as they can. We all see that coming. But they already predicted this whole little adapter fracas. I mean, one of the thoughts I had a couple days ago was, poor Savant. They base everything they make on adapting to an Apple product. How do you change it? And what kind of transition do you go through with a client? From that 30-pin to this tiny little connector. Now, this sounds like a beautiful answer, although it almost seems defensive. Like, here's a patent on something you would use it for, but we're going to run this way with this connector, and nobody else can have it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't either. Steve, is this going to be the end of not just HDMI, but just cables in general?
Well, I guess we could look at it. I mean, and I agree with George too. I think this new connector is the root of this. But if this is similar to the AirPlay model, then I could see it having some value, and I could see it being a solution. I'm stuck personally on this new connector. I understand it. I realize things have to change, but it's just a tough one to swallow.
All right, moving on from The Verge, a Japanese carrier, NTT Docomo, announced the launch of a new translation app, which will take Japanese and translate it into English, and vice versa. The reason I mention that, it runs on Android 2.2 or higher. There's support for French, German, Indonesian, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, and Thai will be added later this month in October. The reason I mention this is at least the way my brain works. I'm like, okay, cool. It's on Android. That means I can write an app for my AMX system or my Crestron system, and write it once, and it will ship wherever I want it to in the world. Steve, you guys do a lot of programming for control systems. Is this something that is interesting to you, or am I kind of stretching here?
Well, I think it's interesting.
Stretching is fine.
I'm not sure how much it's going to pertain to the control market, but I think it's interesting. I was just thinking that if you could only have it translate, a Crestron program to an AMX program, or vice versa, that could make it real cool.
Oh, you want real translation? Nice. Although I get the feeling that what that would really do is sort of suffer us through the actual listening to of a Vogon poem.
Wow.
Wait for it. Thank you. But no, truly, I mean, it would be that would be very cool though for home automation systems, especially commercial spaces, retail spaces, where like New York, you can have 1,000 languages going on at once, and people can communicate and/or purchase things without having to suffer through the translations or mispronunciations of
of
the
their
words.
names.
Well, but I mean, translate stuff. So, hey, I want to buy that product. I need 4.
No, it seems very Star Trek-ish to me. So. Or what was it? The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the Babelfish.
Exactly. Yes, I was thinking Babelfish, which brought me to Vogon.
Yeah. All right. Wow, that was okay. This is a couple more stories here. First of all, the FCC is the devil. They are voting in favor of rethinking spectrum holding rules. Why are we mentioning that? Well, because everything the FCC does, not everything, a lot of what the FCC does affects us in the AV industry, whether that's wireless. We mentioned the Apple wireless adapter patents that will be affected by the FCC. Wireless microphones are affected by the FCC. Anything that doesn't have wires is affected by the FCC primarily. It feels like it, at least. This is, I don't know. Basically, what they're saying is, yeah. Sorry, they're taking these rules, the ownership rules surrounding the wireless frequencies at 1 gigahertz, and they're treating it differently than others that are around there. And why that really matters is if they start selling off big chunks of the spectrum, The nightmare that some of us had, if you had, certain frequency wireless mics a couple years ago, is going to be revisited. Or am I just being doom and gloom, George?
I've been looking at this and I've been reading about this for a little while, and I'm not sure. It sounds like a good idea. I mean, it sounds like at least somebody at the FCC is going, hey, let's be proactive. Let's try to figure out something instead of having it stagnate. But it's still ownership by the ownership. So I think they're going to sit on it because they want to make their maximum money out of something that they don't have, much control over very shortly. It's bad English, but I think they're looking for the highest bidder. They're looking for the most bandwidth that they can get. And, as an owner of beachfront property, I'm not going to say, I'm going to be altruistic and give it to the common folk to use for anything. I'm going to send it to the guy who wants to build a luxury condominium and give me, a good portion of it, plus, in perpetuity.
Yes, but at least part of the beach is available to the public.
Well, so they say. Hey, look, coming from the Hamptons, I grew up in the Hamptons. Let me tell you, there's a lot of public beaches, not so much. Okay, somebody wants to make something private for a good length of time, they can do it, and they do.
Well, that just sucks.
Well, yes.
All right, Steve, is this, are we Hamptonizing the wireless spectrum here? Are we going to, viva la revolution and let the white spaces run free?
Yeah, I have to agree with what George is saying. I think that there's a supply and demand issue, and if they can make the money on it and it's prime real estate, then I could see where it makes sense. But I mean, do we like it? No, but I could see where it's coming from.
Well, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, they've never been very good, the FCC, at any of this stuff, and. They have some really great plans, and then they just decide, you know what, there's money dangling in front of it, or some part of Congress says, we need to study this for a little while and see how much more money we can put into that coffer. And it's just free it up and make it go. Put it aside, do it. I mean, they almost tried to stomp on the wireless mic people, right?
Yeah.
Who cares about you? No, there's no need. And then somebody finally convinced them, hey, you're talking about an entire set of industries here that'll just get typhooned.
Yeah.
By wireless microphones. I know there are these things that you don't care about, but you got to give us some space, something to do. Otherwise, everybody's going to be back to wearing a wired mic around their neck while they move around. I mean,
hey. Please don't.
Yeah. Well.
And I'm sorry, there are 2 or 3 fabulous AV companies that are still making those stupid things that I still don't get. Anyhow. All right, this one's for you, George. Neil Young has finally realized his dreams for having a high-res digital music player. It's called the Pono.
The Pono.
Now, say that very carefully, please, and Google it very carefully, please.
Yep.
The Pono music player.
It reminds me of the days of Panja and Paja.
Jeez.
Don't misspell that word when you were going to a website.
Panja boy, panja,
yeah, that was famous. I think again, speaking altruistic with the altruism, I think this is something that a lot of musicians like Neil Young, like say the Pearl Jam kind of guys, and classical musicians and such and so forth. The resolution of an MP3 is a real disappointment. So much gets lost for them. I mean, we all know this. I mean, you listen to something on a really high res digital format like FLAC or something of that nature, and it's just stunning. Listening even comparatively on a headphone, you're like, wow, there's all this stuff going on inside of it that you just don't hear. But again, we're dealing with a mass market that says, I want this type, and this is what it is, and it's the path of least resistance. It's the most profitable. I don't know what this Pono's doing. That shape, the triangular shape, there's got to be a purpose to it, because that nobody said this is a good thing. Is it fit into something? Is this part of an ecosystem in which that triangular shape has some benefit? These and other mysteries will be solved next week. Tune in. I don't know. I'm all for it, but at what price and at what? We're not going to look like Apple, so we try hard to just be obtuse.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, they have an ecosystem, a music download store, and a bunch of other stuff, but Steve, one of the guys that has actually heard this and listened to it, Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, which is not what you may consider, mainstream. I guess need more than mainstream, but He said it's not, quote unquote, it's not some vague thing that you need dog's ears to hear. It's a drastic difference. Is this something where guys who are still buying vinyl are going to go out after and...
Hey.
What?
Kind of pejorative almost.
It's not a pejorative. It's, okay, here's the thing.
Still buying vinyl.
I did not say vinyl like that. Okay, so if you're buying vinyl, you really care about the quality of your music, correct?
Sure. I
don't buy vinyl. So, the last albums that I've purchased have all just been iTunes downloads. And so, no, I'm not, I'm not a purist, I guess, when it comes to the audio. I'm okay buying, what was the last album I bought? A Jason Mraz album, I'm okay with just having it on iTunes. Does that make me evil or wrong?
No, but I mean, look, you're with everybody else. I mean, but the problem is, of course, what they're doing is they're sort of least common denominator-ringing
You just made up a new word, by the way.
Ringy ding, hello. To the pop stream, the auto-tuned pop demons.
Oh, don't.
Boys to Men, or no, what is the new one? One or something, But no, but that's what an MP3 is basically fundamentally looking to be the torchbearer of, because that is dynamically limited. There's not much going on. You don't worry about transients from a brass or a string or some finely tuned, an 18th century violin. It's pretty darn simple stuff, and it's not dynamically and harmonically interesting, really. It's got a beat, and you can dance to it. I give it a 7. Wow. That's what they're looking for.
It's definitely going to appeal to a certain type of listening audience and possibly a certain type of age group, because I would say the young age group these days are probably brought up on digital music, so they aren't going to necessarily know the difference per se, unless you're a musician or unless you really just you have some affinity for live music that is classical or something that this could really capitalize on, and of course price point is going to be critical here.
Yeah, I mean, I lean towards my MP3s all the time anyway, but when given the chance, I'd love to. I mean, look, I have a pair of these 5-way JBLs. I know, not great, but these home things that I bought years ago that I don't have room in my house that I live in now to really put up. But occasionally I drag them out of their protective covers and from the little closet space that I keep them well in, and I drag them out and I hook them up to the stereo and just blow my kids away. Stuff they've heard all their backyardigans, even.
I'm sorry. Did you just say you put backyardigans on a? Oh my lord.
The kids love it. They also dance to other stuff. So, but remember, what's their frame of reference? They know these songs really well, really well. They sing them and listen to them every night. So they're really into it, and they notice the difference. So you can get people. This is again not format, but it's the actual delivery medium. But still, there is something you can teach people to be noticed, but at what cost? We don't have the money to put in their room very nice speaker systems for them to listen to, right?
I don't have the money to put it in my room.
Right, exactly. I don't have the space anymore.
No.
But there is something you can teach people, being very dramatic and very solid, saying, this is, look how beautiful that is. But you get to a point of going, hey, I'm traveling around the city, I'm walking around with my little earbuds, wrong number 3 there. That's what they're looking for, is to just like the telephone system emphasizes certain frequencies of the human voice. It could carry all of them, especially today, but they still don't, right? It's still that little hump in the middle that they really emphasize for clarity and understandability. Making up words again.
I think that one actually,
so goes MP3.
I think that one actually is a word. So, no, and I get you. I get it. And there's also a bandwidth issue, or with just having that one set of frequencies. So,
yeah.
All right. Last but not least, this is one from actually it came from George. And I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here with my little tinfoil hat. But there's a group of people meeting that kind of takes care of the internet. It's called the WCIT, World Conference on International Telecommunications, and basically, they're talking about changing the regulations for the internet, which is kind of weird because they're talking about regulating. the internet. And the reason that this is important for us here at AVNation is because that's where we live. We live on the internet because we don't have a radio tower, or a TV tower. George, is this something that where we contact our congressman or where we contact these guys at WCIT?
I'm wondering how much do we really need to be concerned. I know there's pushes by other countries to say we should have control over our internet and be able to dictate it, and they want to put certain limitations on our stuff. But I wonder if we're getting a little Art Bell coast to coast, conspiracy theory here. Are we gonna tie that in with the Siberian oil well that drilled down to hell? Mm-hmm. I mean, it kind of feels that way sometimes, and I know that there's some reality to this, that they really are pushing very hard to have certain things limited, and that just goes against our patriotic First Amendment stuff. But it's not the Illuminati that they're making it out to be, I believe. I know this came from Slashdot, and they get a little crazy. They get Adam Curry conspiracy theory crazed.
Wow, that's pretty darn crazed.
Yeah, that's a little crazed. At least he's well maintained. Well, no, wait, crazed is doing something really stupid, and we hear about it in the news. Adam Curry's just a little frightening. Like, all right, boy, sit down here, take your medicine. Good. It's okay. Quiet room. But it's something to keep an eye on. But I don't think this is like we got an uproar about and blacked out websites a year ago about.
Yeah, it's not so.
Not the same level.
Yeah. Steve, is this something that we need to worry about? Whether it's our internet, because a lot of our devices live on the internet now, or because there are more than one. There's more than one company in St. Louis, in the U.S. that deals with overseas systems. I have a very good friend who just went to Kuwait to fix the system. And there's a lot of international monitoring now and a lot of international control. Is this something we have to worry about because of stuff like that?
Well, we depend on the internet quite a bit, so it's certainly something that should be thought about, and any regulation could end up becoming impacting business or impacting any type of product. But I'm not sure if it's real yet. But it's something that we should have on the radar.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Well, I thank you so much for joining us for this week's AV Week. With us has been, first, Betsy Jaffe joined us from InfoComm. Please go out and celebrate AV Week, if you would, please. It's the 14th, the week of October 14th, 14th through the 20th, I believe. And you can go out and you can do the AV-lympics, or you can get your congressperson or mayor or governor, like some have done, and get a proclamation proclaiming this as AV Week. So go out and celebrate AV Week, if you would, please. Also with us has been Mr. Steve Greenblatt from Control Concepts. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Where can people find you, either in the Twitterverse or website or wherever?
Okay, Twitter, I'm at simply at Steve Greenblatt, one word, 2 T's. And my company website is controlconcepts.net.
Controlconcepts.net. All right. Also with us is George Tucker from World Stage, but he's also a blogger, a fabulous Twitter person. And I don't know if you're my right hand or my left hand, but I couldn't do most of the stuff that I do without you. So tell people how they can find you and such.
Well, I've turned the GPS off, so no one can find me that way.
Oh,
first wife, get away, stalker.
You and that first wife, dude.
Yeah, I know, it's a lot of fun. Hey, I don't have any issues. I don't have anger issues. I swear I don't.
You just have a first wife.
Exactly. Hey, everybody needs a starter wife. It's a start a family. It's a start a marriage. It's
wow.
So you can find me on
talk to Michelle.
Twitter, which is Tucker2s. I am on Google+, I'm on Facebook and all that, but you can find me at Tucker Tuesday at typeed.com. I'm a Red Band blogger, and there are a few others. There are a few other ones in the works for some major publications, but that'll come sooner.
Major? Look at you. You're gonna bypass me and leave me in the dust. Major publications. Holy cow. All right, I don't have any major publications. I just got this thing, y'all. My name is Tim Albright. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it is TD, Tim David Albright. on the Twitterverse. But more importantly for me and everybody here at AV Nation, please go by and check out our brand spanking new website. Mr. Matt D. Scott has worked feverishly to get it up and running, and it looks fabulous, at least much better than I could ever have done, which is evidenced. Huh?
Bieber feverishly?
He worked feverishly. Yes,
Okay.
Bieber feverishly. He listens to Justin Bieber while he does the website. So I just started a whole other thing.
Does he go off and perform like Bieber did Sick,
I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, go by the website, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Check that out. Also, you can get this podcast and others there, as well as on iTunes. If you like our stuff on iTunes, leave a comment. Say, hey, this is really cool, or hey, stop talking about Justin Bieber. So yeah, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. That's all the time we have for AV Week.